In a night of surprises, Texas Senator Ted Cruz rode a wave of strong evangelical support to a projected victory over national front-runner Donald Trump in the GOP's Iowa caucus, according to NBC News. On the other side of the race, Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton declared victory before actual results were projected, while her rival, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, dubbed it a virtual tie. Much of the attention was on Trump, whose campaign rhetoric has focused on his ability to win everything from business deals to the latest polls, so a loss in Iowa may blemish that image. In fact, Trump had led most recent statewide polls, and he even opted to skip the most recent debate. And he had spent weeks hammering Cruz with criticisms while campaigning in Iowa. Recalling the doubts that everybody expressed about his chances in Iowa when he first announced his candidacy, Trump said in a Monday night speech that he was honored to come in second place, and he congratulated Cruz. Still, the businessman noted his first-place standing in New Hampshire polls, looking ahead to the next major test for his campaign. Florida Senator Marco Rubio delivered a triumphant address for his projected third-place finish, pledging to become the eventual Republican nominee. For his part, Cruz struck a populist tone in his Monday night victory speech. Iowa has sent notice that the Republican nominee and the next President of the United States will not be chosen by the media, will not be chosen by the Washington establishment, will not be chosen by the lobbyists, but will be chosen by the most incredible, powerful force, where all sovereignty resides in our nation, by we the people, the American people, Cruz declared. The results of the Democrats' Iowa caucuses remain too close to call as of 12:10 a.m. ET on Tuesday. Earlier entrance poll data indicated a lead for former Secretary of State Clinton, according to NBC News. In that race, NBC News was allocating 20 of 52 delegates to Clinton, and 20 to Sanders as of 11:10 p.m. ET. Clinton's campaign indicated to NBC News that it would be declaring victory in the state race, and the former First Lady said she was breathing a big sigh of relief in her Monday night speech. In that address, Clinton characterized herself as a progressive who gets things done for people, and as someone who stands in a long line of American reformers who make up our minds that the status quo is not good enough. The Republican National Committee, meanwhile, released a statement calling the Democratic Iowa caucus an unmitigated disaster for Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party, as the night's results were still too close to call between Sanders and her. For his part, Sanders said just before midnight ET that the race appeared to be in a virtual tie, and he described the evening as Iowans sending a message. When I think about what happened tonight, I think the people of Iowa have sent a very profound message to the political establishment, to the economic establishment and, by the way, to the media establishment, he said. And that is that given the enormous crises facing our country, it is just too late for establishment politics and establishment economics. Meanwhile, NBC News reported that former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley would suspend his campaign Monday night. And former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee tweeted just before 10:30 p.m. ET that he had officially suspended his run for the GOP nomination. Reports surfaced Monday evening that some precincts received many more caucus goers than expected, with one county GOP leader telling NBC News that we are busting at the seams. Entrance poll results from NBC News showed that 43% of Republican respondents said Monday's was their first caucus. For the Democrats, 59% said they were first-timers. Monday's Iowa caucuses marked the first real report card for presidential hopefuls. A win for a candidate does not by any means spell a nomination at his or her party's convention, but victory or even a competitive placing in Iowa can help build momentum into the rest of the year. On the other hand, a weak result in the state could mean the beginning of the end for some campaigns, especially in the crowded GOP field. It remains to be seen how former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, who spent the most money in Iowa but posted low numbers, will proceed now. Trump has been the consistent GOP frontrunner in major national polls, topping Cruz and Rubio, who are sitting in second and third place, respectively. Within Iowa, all the recent polls gave Trump a slight lead over Cruz in polls, but the Texas lawmaker had come in ahead of the real estate developer as recently as mid-January. On the Democrat side, former U.S. Secretary of State Clinton has led every major national poll, but Sanders has steadily gained ground since the summer. Former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley holds a distant third place standing in polls. In Iowa, Democratic expectations were mixed, with Sanders and Clinton locked in a virtual tie in most recent polls. But there was a large block of undecided voters in both parties in Iowa, and no certainty on who would turn up at the caucuses on the wintry evening, given that many supporters of Trump and Sanders are new to the process and disenchanted with traditional politics. Iowa begins both parties' nationwide nomination process, but its procedures are not well known outside of the state. The state's Republican version sees caucus goers attend meetings wherein they hear speeches from candidates' supporters, and then each person casts a secret vote. For Democrats, the format is more public. Caucus goers assemble in a room based on candidate preference, and if their favorite doesn't receive enough bodies to win a single delegate, then they can switch to another. Iowa caucus winners have not necessarily fared well in their party's nomination process, especially on the GOP side. In 2012, former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum eked out a win over eventual nominee Mitt Romney, and Huckabee easily won the contest in 2008, before eventually losing to Arizona Senator John McCain. Democrats, on the other hand, have seen their Iowa winner go on to win the nomination in each of the last 3 contested caucuses. The first primary vote, as opposed to caucus, is February 9 in New Hampshire,